Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intellectual Gentlemen's Club. We are at IGC 65. We're in the midst of Season 3, or Season 5, Episode 3, sorry. I'm here with my friend Justin True. We'll do a little introduction here in a minute after getting some business out of the way. You guys can always check out the website, intellectualgentlemensclub.com. Social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Video will be up on YouTube. If you want to support the show, there's a way through the website. You can find that just through the support tab. I always recommend that you guys would support our guests rather than just sending us anything if that serves you. So please do. Music, again, is brought to you by Secrets, as always. You may have seen him co-host in the past. He's kicking out some new stuff, so he'll be on Soundcloud if you want to check him out. So, now that that's all out of the way, we can take a breath, and I just want to introduce here Justin True. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great.
Beautiful space you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm pretty proud of it. It's probably one of my downfalls with it, but
yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it has been.
You're a doer.
But it's been a labor of love, this one. So I didn't want to put any negative kind of energy into it. So when I started to get frustrated with things, I would just back off and then come back to it. So It's been good for me in that regard. So let's talk about you, Justin. I met you through the men's group that you and Evan started, and both pretty regular members of that monthly kind of gathering.
Yeah.
And I've seen you on a one-on-one basis, did some shamanic work, which I hope we'll get into in a little while. Well, why don't you just give us an elevator speech on who is Justin True?
Who is J True? All right. Well, in context of the men's group, being that we met there, that was something that, I think came up in terms of just wanting to connect with, like, weird dudes. Because I feel like...
I guess we did it.
Yeah,
right? Congratulations.
Yeah, we are. We won. And I've been doing this, I call it psycho-spiritual work, and just signing up for every single thing I can find, from yoga training to shamanic training and every workshop. I like to say it's, basically out of my own wound. And we've talked about in men's group often, this idea of primal wound. Mm-hmm. We're born into this mess. And it's only a mess because, if we think that we're disconnected from the divine, and that typically a lot of times, unless you're born into like a family of yogis or something that has some sort of context around all of this, even in that context, you still get the primal wound. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't get out of this without it. And it could be, like my one teacher says, as simple as, I just didn't get attention in a certain moment that I wanted mom to give me attention. And from that moment stems, like, you can go in a lot of directions with that.
Just wrap a festering wound right around it.
Yeah.
And just keep layering on it, right?
Yeah, and then like project out from that wound, and that way it colors everything that you see, as if we're looking through a lens of, for example, like, I need to be seen, and I need to be seen now. And maybe that is something that never gets addressed. And they say that something like, that first point of that sort of early wound, if it doesn't get addressed in some way, that you won't emotionally grow or progress after that point in that particular way.
I've heard a similar theory about drug abuse, and like somebody trapped in addictive patterns, that once they're kind of locked into like hardcore addiction, then they stop emotionally growing. So if they get clean 10, 15 years later, and they started when they're in their early 20s, they still have like a baseline emotional level of early 20s because they haven't been able to process things.
Yeah, sounds right. I mean, I was just getting my hair cut the other day, and the woman said that this couple came in and they were irate about their kid's haircut, and I was like, it's the same idea of like road rage. It's just this festering thing that doesn't get addressed, and it lingers and lingers and lingers. and then one day it's like, bam, it's one possibility. But and of course, like the primal wound that's maybe extreme. That's the extreme version. The sort of normal or standard version or beginner's version, I guess we might call it, is sort of just this simple underlying maybe sense of like, I don't really know what I'm doing in the world. Like, what am I? Is it go to
like
work?
The existential funk kind of thing.
Yeah.
That we're talking about.
Yeah, like what are we doing here? What's my purpose? And I actually have been really on that kick in the last year or so. It's like, what is it that I really want to do? My wife and I, we started the Alchemy Home, and we met like already on. She already had her shamanic stuff going on and her yoga stuff going on, and then I did too separately. So when we met, it was just like, it was awesome.
Nice.
We were like on the same page, and so she's amazing. She's in Bali right now, doing work with Liv Wheeler and ancestral work and all this kind of stuff. So super proud of her for all.
Bali sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like her third women's pilgrimage with these women, and these women are awesome.
Yeah.
Some crazy awesome stories.
I imagine.
A lot of sidestepping here, basically just to point out.
It's okay, that's how we roll.
Yeah, right. The Alchemy Home. So the Alchemy Home is just like our business that we do one-on-one shamanic sessions like you experienced, and workshops. We've been doing shamanic journeying, and we're coming up on our 4th shamanic yoga retreat, and I really, really love those. I look forward to those every single time.
They look great, man.
Gosh, it's...
Seen you guys do it on Facebook. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rachel's really big on community, and I'm glad. At first I was like, community, but like I think I want to be an artist. I want to be alone. And
wait, we're introverts.
Yeah, her not so much. But anyway, community is growing on me. I'm loving it. I realized that it's something that I didn't know that I needed so badly, and I've been super excited to meet all these folks. I mean, the guys in the men's group, amazing dudes, and the brotherhood was right away.
Sure.
Like within a few meetings. So once we had this common interest and we realized that you can see the divine in each other, and also the struggles. So
it's difficult. The older I get, I remember as a kid thinking, I was like looking at my parents or like older people and like, where's everybody's friends? Like, why don't nobody's hanging out? It's like we were always with our family or whatnot. And it does get harder the older you get to find somebody that you really want to spend your time with. And men's group has been a great place to find those type of people, and so is yoga. Both those like inlets, I guess you could call them. Yeah, the older I get, people seem to fade out. I've faded out from people's lives as well, and people are into different things, and that's just how life goes. But it's great when you can find a community like that, to kind of, I don't want to say grab onto, but to gravitate towards and have those common interests. Have you read the book Tribe?
No.
Okay, so it basically just talks about how the downfall of human emotions or connectedness was directly involved with community or brotherhood or sisterhood or some type of tribal type of community. And it goes over in pretty great detail about Marines, or I don't know if it's the Marines or the Navy, but definitely soldiers, American soldiers that have gone into battle and gone through training together and feel like this brotherhood, even through dangerous, working through the suck, working through the shit, they're happy. And then when they come home, they're disconnected from that. And
wow.
That is what's causing so much PTSD.
That makes perfect sense to me.
He lays out, it's by Sebastian Junger. And I highly recommend it. It's actually a pretty short read. And it's packed with information on there. Like, the light bulbs kept coming on when I'm reading that book, and I'm just coming full circle is, tribe and community, I think, is very important for the human psyche, you know, to operate at a premium level. You know, you put somebody in solitary confinement, they will literally go insane more often than not. So
that's a big fear of mine, you know. But yeah, it's funny you say tribe. That's part of our logo. So like on our logo, the slogan underneath is "Find Your Tribe."
The owl logo.
Yeah, the owl.
That's cool. I
and
like
then
it.
with the antlers, so like you know, mythical creature, and so "Find Your Tribe" has been huge for us because like it's quadrupled, you know, the number of people that we've met that are in this kind of work, and it just feels good. And you know, that's what the retreats are really centered around that. And of course, we have yoga and shamanic sessions. We do one-on-ones with folks, or we do a lot of workshop styles. So we do like group journeying, and that's my favorite. You know,
Take me through a typical day, like day one, right? Like you guys show up that previous
retreat,
day, you get set, morning you wake up.
Morning, you wake
What
up,
goes
yoga
down?
right away. I start a little hatha yoga, all levels. I just, you know, work with what we have, and you know, all levels is going to be, you know,
Sure.
variable. So then we move from that to probably we do our first workshop after breakfast. So we have Lindsay. I think you've met Lindsay before. She's really into this work as well, and she's a magnificent chef. So she makes all the meals, all plant-based, all whole, intact food.
Nice.
And so then a workshop, say like guided journeying. So set up the gong, set up the drum, come together.
Love that gong, man.
Yeah, that gong's powerful. Release that everything. And so you've done some journeying, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, differently. I wanted to kind of get into that, so maybe may as well we can jump
We can
into
do
it
that
now.
Yeah.
I know you just were in North Carolina recently for initiation to melanoma.
Somay. Yeah.
Sorry. My experience with shamanism has been more of like the plant-based medicines and etc. And I feel like I found shamanism later in life after I had like a psychedelic context of what shamanism could mean, like Amazonian shamanism, like ayahuasca, and going down those paths a little bit kind of made it a buzzword, right? So anytime I would think of shamanism, I would think of, okay, I'm entering the spirit world, heavy duty. I'm going to be, you know, visited by a guide or, you know, some type of plant spirit, work me through my garbage and then clean me out, spit me out, and then I'm going to be refreshed. And typically that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
But I found Michael Harner's work, and I found drumming, and shamanic drumming has been kind of, I don't want to say a staple, because I use it kind of infrequently, but it has been a tool in my toolbox for like my spiritual work. It couples with my meditation great, and I'm able to travel down, you know, just like I was kind of directed in the books and some of the audio that I listened to. But I'll turn on a 30-minute drum session. I'll lay down here on my mat and just kind of dive within. And it's kind of like riding a bike now. Like float tanks was the same thing for me. I was like, what do I do? You know?
Yeah, you've done it all.
Yeah, you know, I like to mess around with modalities.
Yeah.
You know, so and now just, you know, I'll turn on the drums, and within a few minutes, you know, I'll enter like the lower world or whatever you want to call it. It's a different landscape completely. I always have the same, you know, guide that visits me, and you know, if it's my own consciousness or if it's something else that I'm in touch with some type of frequency from the drum beats or whatnot. I don't know. It doesn't really make a difference to me the older I get to try and lock it down. But that's my experience with it. So yours, I'm sure,
it's a beautiful experience. It's similar to mine,
great.
and just that you know, it's a frequential shift. Melanoma, I like to use that word a lot last weekend. So to shift frequencies, you know, to go into this lower world, to go into the upper world, middle world, you know, these are just places that we're going into to find out from spirit. And let me just say that, you know, spirit is going to show up in images because we're used to seeing images. So we're
Visually
embodied.
speaking, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the same thing to Arjuna. Like Arjuna's asking him, hey, do I pray or worship to the divine in the infinite form or in the embodied form? And he says embodied form, because you're embodied and it makes sense, So we put our just like your beautiful altar here, it's handy and for the psyche to have an image to relate to. And so when we go in, it's being able to trust the intuition, so much so that whatever guides you have are telling you things, and you can ask, it's a conversation, it's a relationship, and life direction, all these things are there, and I'm really starting to learn to trust that a bit. I had a little gap where I wasn't connecting so much, I was really just in the world and trying to figure out how to just make it in certain ways, and realize that this is gonna, the crap's gonna just keep happening, the problems are gonna keep coming out if the disconnect remains. So stop everything, go sit at the altar, put the drum on, connect, remember, tune in, and every single time something shows up, and not only in the spirit realm in the sense that I'm being told some wisdom or some knowledge or something like that, but then I take that into my body, into my psyche, and I sit with it. I notice the frequential shift, something changes, and then it reflects in the external world, because within a couple of days, I meet somebody, I meet another person, and something is aligning, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this, I'll do the gong bat thing at your place, or I'll do the, things just start showing up and alignment starts happening again. It's unbelievable.
It's nice, man.
It's unbelievable that these things can happen, that you can tune into these other worlds, find out what you need to do, and then come back.
And I guess that's pretty much my goal when I really came to yoga full on, when I, about a year and a half ago or something. I'd messed around with yoga in the past, but I'd never really hit a studio up and found a proper teacher. So I was a little scatterbrained and trying to work through some of my own shit, and went into a studio and felt at home right away. We had Jamie on last month, so you guys can tune in to the previous episode. Yeah, I went in there and specifically looking for guidance, and I forgot where I was going with that, honestly.
Well, the frequential shift and tuning in. You found it in yoga, you found it in shamanism?
I don't know. It's skipping my mind now, man. I had it right there. I don't know. Continue, I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
Blew it.
Well, I think that finding comfort there, it's good to have a place to find comfort, and the psychedelics and all that kind of stuff, there's so many modalities, there's so many ways. I think that, that's a great entry point in, and for those who are really, I would say just don't know where to start, or, I would say heavily attached to the worldly view, and don't have any idea how to tune in to another dimension or another realm, and just need a break. And but it can happen in meditation, it can happen in a yoga class, it can happen in
spontaneously
one breath.
With anything.
Yeah, one good deep breath sometimes can just.
I remember what I was going to say. It was when I went to the yoga studio, I had done so much psychedelic work, and knowing I've been dipping my toe in and realizing, well, I have to take my toe out of the river. So how do I continue to be plugged into the source?
You mean that the river being the psychedelics as the modality?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and Ram Dass talks about it as well. And Be Here Now, it's you can do as much acid as you can get your hands on, but you're always going to come out of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take it with you. It's like an outside drug experience that's providing an internal mechanism, but there is an external catalyst here that we're talking about. So
that wears
not
off.
not wanting to take something every day or every week or every month or necessarily even every year, you know. I wanted to find something that could balance that out and get me plugged in and stayed. I've been a long time meditation practitioner, so I know like that is like the stable, but I'm talking about some heavier duty, you know, things where you can really get in, and meditation does that as well, but something to kind of like break the shell off, you know, and yoga's done that for me in many ways. It's been a more intense practice, and that's what I was hoping to get out of it. So
they say the
that's
thing
why
that
I
is
started that.
How did this go? Something that is sweet in the beginning ends up as poison in the end, and something that feels like poison now is sweet in the end. So this idea that to take something and it's immediate, and you have the
Bliss,
the wah-woos, and you go into this other place and it's instant, and now it wears off and you're like, ugh. And then, but the thing that is harder is showing up and doing asana and sweating your ass off and breaking up all the toxins in your joints and breaking up all the toxins around your organs and cleaning up the Sushumna Nadi, the primary channel. The chakras start to loosen up. Everything starts this domino effect. And, you know, there's that.
Yeah, and all that has been helpful, like to kind of keep me there, I guess. And I don't feel like I'm there 24/7, like I have a job, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I try and stay plugged in as much as I can. I meditate before I work, and, you know, just so I can try and ease into my day and like keep that framework and keep that mental state of mind. But I'm shaken out of it all day long, you know, and it's not even at work, you know. I'm a householder, you know, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and, you know, I'm a friend. I got things in the world that I do a lot, so I don't feel like I'm some great sage or yogi, you know. Is it an aspiration someday for me to feel like free all day long? Yeah, I'm trying to liberate myself, no doubt. I've read about it in countless, you know, holy texts, you know, from different religions and spiritual traditions. So yeah, I'm trying to get there, but let me take that back. I'm trying to get where I'm already at, you know, and try and settle in and just be okay with everything that's going on, moment to moment. So that to me would be enlightenment, instead of like just being plugged into a psychedelic source all day, you know what I mean? It's just too much to be there all the time.
Yeah, it's like an unfolding. It's really more about, so in the Tao, you know, you teach Yin, I teach Yin. Yin yoga is, I love it because it's like countercultural, you know, it's like totally shut everything off. But I just this idea that like there's no place to be, there's nothing to do. You can just literally, if I'm doing my job as a Yin teacher, and hopefully the students will have a death experience, you know, some kind of psychological death experience, even if it's momentary. And I love doing it because, you know, as the practitioner, as the teacher in the class, like I get the benefit too. So it's nice showing up to work and walking out like,
It truly is an honor, man. Like I say that after, you know, at the end of every class, but it truly is an honor. Like, I don't feel like I get to shine a beacon at anybody, you know what I mean? Like, I just do my thing, and it's just years of my own personal practice combined with information I've learned from books and teachers, and, you know, it's just a melting pot of me. And just give me out. But when I see people, you know, have these experiences in this after class, and like, I always tell people, don't drive blissed out, you know, like ground yourself a little bit, because it's amazing, man. Everybody just like loves it.
Yeah.
And they get to unplug, and it's just like this different frequential shift. Is that what you called it?
That's what Melanoma calls it. Just passing it
I'm using it.
So, what was I going to say about the Yin thing? Oh man, I lost it. There's something else about the Yin that was important. Shift and breaking out of.
When you call it countercultural, I haven't looked at it like that, but immediately when you said it, there's like this barrage of like imagery that's going through my head. Like, I always tell people, like, it's time to set your week down. You know, it's like a very yang type of existence that we're living. You know, Western culture is hyper active, hyper large, and just coming down and going internal instead of being so external. All of it just fits perfectly with where I'm at. I like to take asana classes that with more like a hot feel, like a hot vinyasa or like a flow class. I like taking those, but I like teaching yin. I like teaching yoga nidra, like these meditative type practices. It's just where I feel more comfortable, like with my knowledge base first off, and I just like holding space for people and just allowing a place to exist like that, where it's just totally silent,
emptiness,
eyes are closed, everything's shut down. Just keep reminding people to stay with their breath, and just work with themselves.
This reminds me of what I was going to say. It was
Great.
just the exact same thing, just in the Tao. It says, a man of knowledge, like, learns something new every day. A man of the Tao unlearns something every day.
Okay.
So, like, it's an unlearning.
Yeah.
So many of these things are
cultural
just
precepts.
like imprinted in our nervous system to the degree that you can meditate all you want sometimes, and it's just it's not going right now.
Yeah.
And you can't push it away. You can't just get rid of it. Get rid of the busyness just because you want to, because then that's even your very efforting fills you with your very trying to get rid of efforting fills you with efforting, and
which eats
what
up
do we
that
do with
energy.
that?
Yeah, you're not releasing anything at that point. You're just reliving it, and maybe even causing more trauma. Going over it in your minds. I like to tell people, like, in yin, if nobody's practiced yin out there, it's you hold multiple minutes for each posture, and you're trying to lengthen the connective tissues. And by lengthening the connective tissues, you're kind of breaking free of fascia and things like that. And I'm not sold on the idea that there's emotional blockage that's built into the connective tissue. I'm not sold on the idea, but let's get that out of the way. But it's the emotional quality of being still for multiple minutes. That is a meditation in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not going to use concentration, your monkey mind is going to just pillage you. So just having a space like that for something to come up and acknowledge it as it comes and sit with your emotions for a few minutes, even if it's for a minute or two, and then you move to the next posture and it kind of blows out. I feel like it's a great space to be able to do that, especially in the dark. Like, if people are crying, nobody's seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really dim.
That's what leads me to thinking that, and Nick Hill is great at this too, is just sort of locating in what part of the body, like, specific emotions are. I know, it's hard to fathom, but
I've
I think he's
been
onto
with
something
him,
there.
yeah.
That's his teacher, I think. That's like that lineage.
Who's his teacher?
I think his name is Master Kim.
Okay.
I haven't met him yet. I've been meaning to get down there and take a class. He's a Tai Chi teacher also.
Okay. Where's this at?
Gosh, I can't remember. I'll
Alright.
ask him.
Oh, he said Ann Arbor, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and, oh man, lost it again.
Let's go back to Somme. I want to know,
Oh,
like, a little bit more. Let's dig into
Go on.
shamanism a little bit more. Explain what his lineage is. Like, where does his style come from? It's African.
He's from West Africa. He's born in West Africa, Burkina Faso, and so he was. If you can read this in his books. And,
Let me pause you real quick.
Sure.
Would you consider him your guru?
He's.
You
Okay,
used to
so
even
guru.
subscribe to it.
That's interesting that you say that, because the guru is just to specify what guru is. Like, the best definition I've heard is a weighty one. Just
Okay.
one who's just heavy with knowledge. So, elder. I would say he's an elder.
Okay.
I
I like those definitions. A lot of times I feel like guru is like my one true guru, like almost like put on a pedestal.
Guru's not an individual.
All right, good.
Even a teacher of mine that I really look up to, and I get tons of one-liners from him and all that I use in my classes often, and all this is like, he's like, guru isn't an individual, it's a relationship. So it's about the relationship and the ability to just tune in and to have dialogue and to digest maybe information that isn't necessarily verbal or language.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, anyway, Maladoma's from, he's born in Burkina Faso, and which is like West Africa.
It's like a French.
It was
speaking
occupied,
area, right?
yeah, by the
Okay.
French. There was colonization happening at the time, and that's actually segues right into his story. Is that they kidnapped him.
The French?
Yeah.
Okay.
The I believe they're Jesuits and you know, like the Christian sort of movement there. They took they were taking a lot of boys, and I guess they had a girls' school too, and basically raised them Catholic. So it took them out of the tribal like village situation, which is very you know, tribal like and very you know, full of elders, and it has its own culture.
Indigenous.
Yeah, and then now brought into this a very strict sort of upbringing and.
Welcome to the West.
Yeah, I know, right? While still in Africa. So.
What was the reason? How were they able to even do that? It was just like a military type of occupation?
His dad was friends with, had like connected with them, and I'm only halfway through the one book where they're describing, you know, this scenario, but so after many years of being there, then he ran away. He escaped, as I think he was maybe 20-ish, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And then went back to the village, and then had to get initiated back in.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, they said that you have terminal knowledge. Terminal knowledge means like
Stuff you have to undo. Right?
You can't unlearn how to read in the white man's, you know, language and some of the stuff, but like he had to go through the initiation to, you know, go back in. He said he almost died. He felt as if he was going to, you know, it was tough.
Now, is there any entheogenic compounds that he uses in his shamanism at all, or is it just strictly drumming and that's their lineage?
Not even. I mean, drumming is not even like it's ritual.
Okay.
I would just call it ritual.
All right.
There's a lot. Everything has a ritual, and everything is treated with ritual. And you know, I'm still learning. Like this is new for me. The stuff that I did before was more a Peruvian lineage. So that was, you know, I have a mesa, and that's along the lineage of Alberto Villaldo.
Okay.
So the work that you and I did and that I
Yeah.
do with clients is that.
Okay.
It's a system, and I have a protocol, and I follow it, and then at the same time I'm tuning in and, you know, to my intuition,
Sure.
journeying and all that. This is a little bit different. It's new for me, you know. Everything is very ritualistic, and you know, I went to a men's gathering first. That's how I first, well, backing up a little bit, Rachel, my wife, did work with Liv Wheeler, and
Just who she's in Bali with now.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so one of Liv's teachers is Malidoma. So Liv went through some training and stuff with him, and so I just looked it up and started YouTubing, and I'm like, wow, this dude is like heavy with knowledge. So I just listened to all the YouTube videos, and I got some books, and I looked up online. There's like a men's gathering coming up in North Carolina. I'm like, all right, I just signed up. I'm just gonna go, and it was an incredible experience. It was like our men's group on steroids.
That's what I imagine it would be. Yeah.
You know, just because he's an elder. I mean, the guy's been doing this his entire life, and
What's interesting too is that he has the cultural currency from both. Like,
yes,
if he hadn't had that abduction, let's call it experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wouldn't have the context of what
he's high educated, very,
what
very high
an American would be thinking, perhaps. You know.
Yeah, I mean, highly intellectual, and highly like
Intuitional.
Yeah, I was gonna say like tuned into the indigenous wisdom of the elders, and
Sounds like the best of both worlds. I mean,
yeah, right. Robert Bly, familiar with Robert Bly? The poet?
the name is familiar.
Okay, he's Patrick actually just shared a video today.
Okay.
Ironically, he's shared a Robert Bly and Michael Mead
Okay.
together, some stuff about men's work, and which is powerful. I mean, those guys are amazing. I would highly recommend like watching some of their stuff. Well, from what I understand, his teacher is Malidoma, like one of his teachers.
Okay.
So it was like his go-to guy for quite a while. And so yeah, I still got a lot to learn. There's so much to learn in this.
You do?
I mean, just in this particular thing, but I had a lot to learn in general.
Man, everybody, it's amazing how much you don't know.
You don't know
And
what you
the
don't know.
The older I get, I know that I don't know more. It's
Mhm.
like, it just fuels my desire for more knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, oh, have you checked out so and so? No, okay, I'm gonna YouTube that. Wow.
Rabbit
okay,
hole.
there's another rabbit hole,
Yeah.
another vortex. I'm already opened up to
yeah.
like 20 vortexes over this way, and now there's a new one. It's like, it's vast.
Yeah.
The knowledge and wisdom is vast. But at the same time, the beauty about all of this too, and even Malidoma's talking about it, is like you get to the point where you don't need any more books. Get rid of all the books. Like the idea is you're tuning in. Like the guru, when we talk about guru, the guru is in the cave of your heart,
Mm-hmm.
and to really trust that. And I'm loving that because that makes it so easy. Like I can keep picking up more and more and more books, and that complicates things because that's the intellect, and the intellect wants to digest more information, but
paralysis by analysis,
Yeah.
a version of that.
Right.
You know, too much information overload. You know?
how many ways can we hear the message?
Mhm.
And then after a while, you're like, wow, I've heard it like 100 different ways. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is like, that's why I'm on purpose. You know, why is all this stuff around purpose is coming up. And you know, I've been writing lyrics for 5 years or so, and so I'm kind of like working on that, some songs,
Nice.
doing the psycho-spiritual rap,
Very
which
cool.
I never thought I would be doing, and it just kind of started happening. And so I'm hoping 2020 actually I'll have like a full album.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice, man.
there's a lot in the works. It's just
Well, you seem very musical to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, you're on the harmonium, and you got the gong, and you're doing singing bowls, which I'm a proud owner of over there.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it seems like
Okay.
you have like this sound healing type of draw, right? I mean,
Yeah.
is it
I was
it
thinking
seems
about
to me
this
it would
today.
be sync right up together.
I was thinking about this today because I was like, if the spiritual journey, and by that I just mean the practices, you know, the modalities. So we've got yoga, we've got shamanism, we've got all these, there's tools,
Mm-hmm.
are pointing us back to our authentic self. And we want to get into that space and then project from there into the world and go do. That's where I'm at now. I'm like, what do I want to actually do to leave an impact on the world? And you know, teaching and all that is amazing. I love it. But I have this sense of like wanting to compile it all. And that's why I've been writing so many lyrics, because I want to, it's not like, hey, let me give you a notebook full of words and like read a book of mine or something like that. But like, I want to put it into an art form. And I feel like ever since, you know, I realized that the spiritual practices are pointing us back to our authentic self. And this whole thing, I mean, Jesus saying, you know, go back to being like a child. Go back to your childhood. Go back to the space where you like are free. And what exists there? Like when I think back to my childhood, it was just nothing but music. I had my two cousins lived directly across the street from me. One, Chris, was he's 12 or 13 years older than me, and he was like the babysitter for the most
Okay.
part of Eric and I. So Eric is just a couple years older than me, and it was
Bringing over
nonstop
the LP,
music.
yeah, the collection, right?
Yeah, man, it was just like, I mean, you know, 90s music, you know, it's like MC Hammer and getting it, you know, but Michael Jackson was like, Chris was all about that. So I heard it on repeat, nonstop. And he used to dance to Michael Jackson at like the Silver Dome and,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like at gatherings, at car shows and stuff like that. And so my family is really like into they just love music so much. And so I grew up just like really, that's how I connect more than anything else. And I think back to all the times in my life where low points, high points, middle points, there's always a song to go with it. There's always that memory, or that like just go for a drive and listen to something that triggers
It's
something
attached,
inside.
yeah, it's attached to memories and
Yeah.
past behaviors even.
And so here I am, like pointing right back to where I was at the beginning. and they say that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you go on your journey, and that's another, I'm thinking of Joseph Campbell right now, the hero's journey, right? We go out, we figure some shit out, like, I don't know who I am, I gotta fight the dragon. The dragon is just symbolic of your own hang-ups, so to speak, and you go through them. And on the other side, like, welcoming back into community. So that's another important
After
piece.
you received your boon.
After you receive the boon, yeah.
Yeah, so you bring it back and share it.
So I'm in the midst of sharing, I guess.
Good.
Yeah, whatever that means. And then I'll go back out again when I feel I need to. It's kind of like...
It's not like it's a one
right.
journey type of life.
Right. It's like Tetris.
Yeah.
It keeps coming, but I gotta figure out where to put it all.
So, what is an initiation for somebody? Like, what does that entail? Like, you always hear about, like, these initiates, like, to yoga, or initiates to a Swami order, or, like, some can be very ritualistic. Obviously, this one probably is, and some are just very impersonal. I was reading Yogananda about when he got initiated in, his guru was just like, you're in. Here's your robes, and we don't need to do a big thing of it. Yeah, because it just is what it is. So everybody's got their own spiritual flavor,
Yeah.
So what was this one like?
Right now, I'm getting an image of, like, the military, and, like, going through that. I can just imagine what kind of initiation that is, just that brutal sort of buck up and
Or tear you down.
Yeah.
To build you back up.
Yeah, that's just an image that just is coming to me right now for some reason, because one of the things that I don't know if this is actually one of the rituals, but he talks about, there's a video, if you YouTube it, like, the art of drowning. And I think that they kind of, like, ride the border of, like, almost drowning to go into a layer of consciousness that is, like,
You mean a near-death experience is what you're saying.
It's like that would be a water ritual.
Or near-death experience for your ego more often, right?
Yeah. One that I have done, and he's I think prescribed to a lot of people, like Rinpoche, I think, has talked about this, has gone to see him and do, like, a burial ceremony.
Okay.
So burying yourself in the earth, these mineral rituals to tune into the vibration of the planet, and you'd be surprised what would happen when you get buried. And of course your head is still out so that you can breathe, but the nice thing is that or the suggested thing is to put enough on so that you can't move either.
Sure.
Because then you can really sort of let go of your control. We just dissolve into the earth. And I've done it twice now, and it's non-linguistic. The things that are happening are non-linguistic. There's not...
It sounds like an opposite of a float tank. But just being
similar,
completely surrounded.
Similar,
like where you're floating in a float tank, you don't feel like you're completely buoyant. I would imagine it would be like a real feeling of being grounded.
Yeah. I guess there'd be more
How long
of a
are you in the
freedom
ground for?
layer to the float tank, as opposed to being constrained. But you can choose to be in as long as you want. And he says, the question isn't, am I done? In terms of, like, asking your intuition, am I done? Is it done? Is the thing done? This is the thing done that's being done to me. And I don't know how long I was in there. I think maybe an hour.
Okay.
Tops, maybe less, the first time. And
do you go through a fair share of fear about being suffocated or anything like that?
Surprisingly,
or not being able to expand your lungs and get
ahead
breath?
of time, there's some of that of, like, thinking that I might, but it was actually very comforting. And
sounds awesome. I like getting buried in the sand, you know what I mean? So
one of the things that the woman there, Teresa, she's the one that owns the space, the home, and she's the coordinator, and she's awesome too. She's, like, super into this work, and she said, I remember her saying, like, imagine yourself going up and out of your body, and as if you were floating, looking back on yourself, and go all the way out. Keep going out until you can see the whole planet. And then there is this perspective shift that happens where you know,
The overview effect, they call it.
yeah, and it's like the whole planet can hold all of your shit. Like you think you have a lot of stuff to work through? Like imagine the whole planet and you're buried in this little tiny like fraction of a, you know, space that the earth can hold all of your problems.
Not just yours or mine, but it holds everybody's problems.
Everyone's. Yeah. So it's a huge perspective shift, and these are powerful things. Like it's so simple, and you would think maybe from an outsider's perspective that you know, maybe not a whole lot would happen there, but a lot happens. You know, no psychedelics, no nothing. You're just in dirt.
Yeah, well, I mean, it truly sounds like a psychedelic experience without
exactly
a psychedelic component to it, where you don't have to take anything. And that's really what I'm trying to get across, like in this new season of the podcast, is, you know, self-care. Like, how can you take care of yourself? What modalities can you use to, you know, better yourself as an individual? You know, how do you better yourself to better all, really? You know, that's the name of the game. It's like, you know, I've done the selfish route, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do this with my life, and I did it. And you know what? It didn't bring the level of happiness that was promised to me by others and myself.
It's like the Ferrari complex or whatever, you know. Once you get it, it's just
like any
how
material.
Long can you really be happy with it?
Yeah.
It'll collect dust eventually.
It's not even that it'll collect dust. It can always be shiny, but that first shine is like, you know, that's where it's at.
Repeat it, right?
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's this balance, because as I was just talking about, is this idea that I feel like I've collected enough data, so to speak, and I can't really fit any more in right now. Like I have to digest a little
Integrate,
bit.
yeah.
Integrate. Thank you. And that's just what it is. You know, the physical, mental, and emotional.
Well, sounds pretty weak. Sounds pretty weak, Justin.
But I'm excited about being, you know, able to just create stuff. You know, that's what I think that's what we're here for. You know, create and to be in community.
It feels like when we're lighter, that's when the creative juices seem to flow. At least it does with me. Like, once I work through some of my shit, I was able to get out of my head and all the negativity, and not all of it, I guess, you know, you could say, but once you come through some challenges, like, space really starts to open up for what do I want to do with life, you know? It's a great gift. Like, every day I sit and meditate and giving thanks every morning for this breath. Thank you for this day. You know, what can I do today, you know, to make it the best?
Yeah.
I don't wake up and say I'm going to do my worst today. I don't think anybody really does, you know?
Today I just want to...
A little light, a little on fire today. No.
Yeah.
Everybody's always trying to do their best, and everybody has a different way of doing it. And when people come together and share what they're doing, what's helped me, what's helped you, it seems like people can only benefit from that. You know, it's like the opposite of prison, where everybody comes together and gets the criminal knowledge intact, right? We're doing.
How are we gonna get out of here?
Yeah. How can we share this? You know, these spiritual gifts, like this time here. And as I progressed through, like, transitioning from atheist to agnostic to now, I don't even know what I, you know, consider myself. I believe that there is some type of spirit, and it's difficult now speaking with atheists where they're just totally discounting a lot of things that resonate with my life. So it's like, I don't have to, there's no argument here. Like, I guess that, to me, it seems like atheists want to argue a lot. And atheists make excellent points. Which brings me to my next point, is I'd like to ask you how you find the best way to use spiritual discernment. So there is a lot of information out there. You know, we've talked about just the tip of the iceberg. So I don't even want to go into like what do you think is hocus pocus or any of that, but how do you, when you're presented with a modality or some type of information or knowledge or wisdom, how do you discern through that and be like, there's truth in this or there's not truth in this?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from for you?
So there's this Bhagavan Das. You familiar with Bhagavan Das? Okay. And I guess so. Ram Dass asked him to go up in front of like a crowd and speak, because Bhagavan Das was like super famous at that time, and he walked up and was like, "I don't know anything," and then just like walked off stage. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. No, I mean, I think that the discernment thing is it's cleaning up so much so that the conduit is clean.
Mm-hmm.
The communication line to the inner guru and the heart, and and then just trust, like being able to trust. And even in terms of like, I think I got this instruction from divine and it turned out badly, I still have to trust that was, because
part of
badly is this, intellectualizing it. And so backing up, it's like trust. Just trust that the infinite, that the divine has a plan, and all of the mistakes that we think we're making are
also part of that plan.
Part of the plan, yeah. It's part of the play.
It's a tough pill to swallow a lot of times, man. I've been thinking about our upcoming conversation here today, and a lot of times I hear, especially at men's group, is everything's perfect and you can't make a mistake. And I really go back and forth with that one a lot. I really do. I'm hard on myself. I'm hard on others as well. I'm noticing as I'm getting older, and it's like, man, everything's perfect all the time. Well, that frees up me, like I can do no wrong. Yeah, everything's no big deal, right? But on the other end of things, things have been done to me that's been really, really painful, and I've done things that others have been really painful. So how do I reconcile with that? Like, it's just part of the plan. That's where I have to go with on those lines of thought. But I don't want it to be so much so that it becomes a cop out for me.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I was just thinking that.
Well, I'm gonna do this.
It doesn't mean that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It shouldn't mean that.
It's like that story about the guy who
do
keeps
your
falling
best,
in the
right?
hole.
Yeah.
You know the story about the guy who keeps falling in the hole? Like
Refresh me.
I walk down the street and then I fall into the hole, and then the next day I wake up, I walk, they repeat the whole story, and then he gets to the hole, he falls in again, but now he knows about it, so now you're aware of the fact that it's happening, and now you can start to slowly make changes, but he still keeps falling in the hole. He's just gradually, finally one day he goes a different road, and so it's the same idea. Discernment is a vast subject that is constantly moving and changing. It's like shooting at a moving target sometimes.
And I think it's, for someone who's like, I don't want to say chasing down spirituality, but someone who's in like spirituality circles or even religious circles, or however you want to say it, things that are outside of this realm, let's call it, right? Things that are in this realm get science with discernment. You have hardcore data, facts, this and that. And I've read quite a few books and articles, stating scientific facts and backing up spiritual, I don't want to call them truths, but spiritual ideas, So the burden of proof is like always on, the seeker, I guess. But looking beyond that, it doesn't even require it to some degree. Like, there doesn't need to be an argument involved. You know what I mean? Like, we know what's in our hearts, and I know I've said this in the past. I look back every 5 years and like some things are like, what were you thinking? And I do that to this day. In 5 years, what am I going to look back? These words that I'm speaking right now. Like, am I going to eat my words?
Oh my God,
So,
I can't believe I said that.
But I have to trust. That's what you're saying. I have to trust myself that each thing that I'm doing, that feel like that I'm bettering myself because of or with, that is going to serve me. And if it doesn't, I would probably learn that. it might be a hard lesson for me to learn, but like you're saying, it's all part of that journey.
I'm thinking 3 pillars. I've heard this, like compassion, humility, and what's the other one? Oh my gosh.
Boundaries?
No. But humility is what I was thinking just now, you know, what we're talking about, and being able to fall. And
Or say you don't know.
I have no idea. I never do.
Yeah.
I think it's more powerful to be in I don't know than to be in, oh yeah, I know about that, I know about that, I know about that, and then later on, no you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know.
Agnosticism still rings true to me because I feel like I'm always able to adapt to new information that's presented to me. Maybe that sounds like wishy-washy or, you know, changing my shoes all the time, but look, I'm a human, I'm constantly evolving. Like, I'm 42 years old, I don't have everything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never have everything figured out, I hope. You know,
Right.
like...
Otherwise it's boring.
Yeah, when the lights go out, you know, hopefully I'll be jacked into source and I'll have all that information. You know, I'll be back
Yeah.
in the pond, in the ocean.
Born back into a body to do it over again.
Yeah, you know, it's like the more I hear people talk about it and learn about, you know, death, and like it's just we're just going back to remember. You know, like we came here to forget. It just seems very plausible to me. You know, I don't know if I have any spiritual truths, honestly. Because everything is so fluid for me a lot of times. You know, I've dabbled with things that people would think are evil. You know, I don't think that they're evil. You know, growing up Catholic, you know, I've had to have a lot of reconditioning done as far as like, you know, a tarot deck, right? I mean, that would be considered evil when I was a kid. You know,
Okay,
like
yeah.
something as simple as that, like just these small divination tools.
Now we use them every day.
Yeah, well, I don't use them every day, but you know, it's a tool that's in my toolbox. You know what I mean? And it provided me a lot of insight.
Yeah.
Again, is that something else coming in,
What is
or is it
darkness?
non-conscious? Doesn't matter.
What is darkness anyway?
It's half of me.
It's darkness is just the absence of light. You know, I hear it that way. You know, there's a lot of ways you can talk about it, but yeah, I mean, duality exists in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
Does it exist in the other realms? I don't know. I don't remember that place. You know, so maybe it doesn't, but maybe it also does in some other format.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't be mad at duality, I guess.
You can be. It's just caused more
Yeah,
suffering.
you can be. Yeah. I don't know. Where do we go?
What would you recommend for people out there listening that really don't have like a deep spiritual practice? People who are looking to alleviate their pain and suffering in this world, in the dukkha type sense, the Buddhist type sense, like life is suffering. Do you recommend the Eightfold Path? You know, where do you start with
to
that?
start from scratch? Gosh, I mean, the way I started was YouTube. We were in 2019, almost 2020, and it's amazing what you can hear and see and experience for free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to the point where, you know, in my 20s, it was like party. It was like weekdays, work hard, get everything done. Weekend, party, feel kind of depressed because I don't really know why I did any of that, and I don't know what I'm doing here at work, and there's just this confusion. To like late 20s, early 30s came, and it was, I always sometimes tell people that my spiritual practice started from conspiracy theory videos.
Okay.
You know, because it was like, which, you know, isn't exactly true. I grew up Christian too, and I have that as a background, but just the shift, the change, the dynamic shift really happened around that time. A friend recommended that I watch The Zeitgeist.
Okay.
And
that's a hell of a rabbit hole, buddy.
that turned me upside down. I was like depressed.
I'd be surprised if it doesn't turn somebody upside down. Like,
I know. It's scary stuff.
It is scary.
And you can go down that rabbit hole, and I did that along with, you know, luckily YouTube recommends.
And that covers a lot of it. You know what I mean?
It covers a lot of it, yeah.
It covers a lot of different.
It's true. And if YouTube is working correctly, it's eventually leading you to the next video, and eventually you're like, Alan Watts. Who's Alan Watts? Ram Dass. Oh, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
You know, and then you meet someone and they recommend someone else. And you're like, oh, okay. Wayne Dyer was a big one for me too.
Okay.
I think just listening to and this is called satsang. In fact, I was doing some yoga teacher training stuff the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put on some of these videos. These teachers like Muji, love Muji stuff, and just listen. Sitting with the teacher. Satsang is a powerful tool because words can be so incredibly powerful. You wouldn't think it, that it's like you're just speaking, but somebody like a weighty one, a guru, can really cut through. It's like not even addressing the thing that you think you're stuck on. It's addressing a bigger canopy that you realize like the little thing that you were like worried about is actually down here in comparison to what can actually let this whole like segment of confusion fall off. So like iceberg style stuff, you know, chunks falling off. And I think that can be really powerful to just hear the words of these guys. And Gangaji, she's another really good one on YouTube. These are disciples of Papaji, who is then a disciple of Ramana Maharshi. So straight lineage, straight through. And they're both speaking currently in today's time. Muji and all over the world is speaking and showing up, YouTube channel, all this stuff. And show up to a yoga class, take a risk. You know, what can happen? Go to a meditation class if you want to start there. You just got to dive in and be brave enough to open up the heart and don't worry about showing some emotion too. I think that's a big one. I think we talked a lot about that. I think in the beginning of men's group around, you know, what is masculinity and what does that look like in this kind of work, and this sort of false front thing of like I'm going to be macho or I'm going to stand in my power even if I actually don't feel it, you know. And so this inauthentic thing happening, and I mean this isn't just a men's thing, of course. This is like
right
across the board. Being in inauthenticity, putting on the mask because of illusion. In the sutras, there's the 5 kleshas, right? So the idea of like putting on, first being in avidya or ignorance, misknowing, not ignorance in a, you know, to be taken in like a personal way, but just simply I don't know what I don't know. Yeah, and it's really ignorance.
Not being dumb.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just in being in ignorance and not knowing who you actually are. You're the authentic, the infinite one, who's just pure consciousness residing in the body. So I think that's part of why it's so confusing to be in this, I'm just going to say the word culture again, I just keep saying that, but like to be in this culture where like we're identified with mind, we think we're our thoughts, we think we're our emotions, but those are things that we're having.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a car, but that doesn't mean that you are the car. And so it takes a number of times to hear that, you know, to hear people saying things like that before it sinks in. And even then, it can still just be an intellectual thing.
Yeah.
But still, that's helpful. And, you know, that's like jnana yoga, the yoga of wisdom. And to sit and listen to people that know some things, so powerful. And then just start acting, do one thing, go to one class, see how that feels. You know, I think that, and we're seeing it so much, like nowadays. I mean, you go and I'm trying to advertise my yin gong baths, and I'm like, man, I'm up against like 500 things now. Like there's so much
all the
going
events.
on.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful though, because like, what else, you know, this whole Southeast Michigan area has got it going on now. Like there's so much
definitely
cool
seems
stuff
to be, yeah. As I'm, you know, infusing myself more in the community, the yoga community, there's nothing short on things to do, you know. There's a lot of yoga studios out there. There's a lot of workshops.
Tons of workshops, shamanic workshops, sound baths, this, that. I mean, it's all around. Thank God for social media.
Yeah.
Right? I was thinking about that
it's
too.
almost too much, man.
It is too, well,
like
you
you're
can turn it
saying,
off
it's
and
like,
we'll sit.
there's that. You know, that's always good sometimes. Let's switch gears. I know seems like we're probably about an hour here anyway, but I wanted to get your take on health and diet. You seem like a pretty healthy guy. What's like,
Man,
what's your routine?
that's
What do you
a-
like to eat? What do you not like to eat?
that's interesting that you brought up that topic because I've been trying to figure it out for a long time, and I'm still like right now I'm vegan. I'm doing the whole just everything vegan, and it's been a while. I'm not right now. It's been mostly since yoga teacher training and
Okay.
coming into terms with that. You know, non-harming. That feels good for me.
Mhm.
For me, that just feels right. And so I actually just signed up for vegan bodybuilding, like so
Oh, wow.
before and after. You know, not like a stage thing. I'm not going to
Yeah,
get into
yeah.
that, but just simply.
Measuring kind
Yeah.
of data points.
I was into that a
with
little
yourself?
bit back in my 20s.
Lifting?
Weight, yeah,
Okay.
lifting a lot. And so I'm lifting again, and but these guys, these vegan bodybuilders are huge. They're like
I've been watching.
IFBB pros, winning, you know,
Yeah.
winning shows and stuff. So
What was I watching? Game Changers.
yeah, exactly. That
Okay.
guy, Namai Delgado.
Okay.
He's the one. I'm following his program right now,
Okay.
and
You guys are doing
Feel good
amazing
about it.
stuff, man. Like, you know, just the points of what they're talking about, like just the sheer like exhaustion that they're avoiding, just based on not having any meat products in their body. I don't know, like if it's just like a perfect key and a perfect keyhole for these people, or if it would truly do that for everybody.
right, yeah.
But
you have to experiment and
yeah, everybody's
play.
got different body types and
Sure.
different, you know, things they're trying to accomplish. Like, you eat for the body, you eat for the spirit, or in
But at
between.
least the complete protein thing,
Mhm.
at least that. So this guy was just watching a video about talking about the Game Changers, you know, and this guy was kind of pointing out the things, and yeah, they did do a little bit of like leaning toward like making it look like if you're a vegan body or a vegan athlete that you're going to do better than a meat eater.
Mhm.
And there was some science, I guess, with the blood and some of that kind of stuff in there, and the changes in the blood.
Yeah, that was
But,
pretty compelling, actually.
Yeah, and
Endothelial walls in the cells,
Yeah.
or something like constricting
so you get more
up to
blood
4 to
flow.
6 hours after you consume. I forget what it was, like something iron.
Yeah, I can't
I don't
remember
know.
the science.
Don't listen to me right now. I'm not.
No, but you got it.
I don't have my Cliff Notes with me, but
The thing though is that yeah, like they it's not just simply only vegan propaganda. There's
Mhm.
also science in it.
yeah.
You know, so that's just where I'm at right now, and I feel good. I feel a lot lighter, but it's still a calorie thing. You know, like if you're consuming too much food in general, you're gonna feel lethargic and kind of dumpy. And
Mhm.
there are times even on this program where I'm just like, man, I need more food. I'm so hungry, and I eat so much. I just splurge, and I eat like way more than I should, like half a
Yeah.
jar of peanut butter, not a half jar, but
Yeah, I got you.
you know. So I struggle with that too, but I think just first of all going on clean like whole foods. You know, that's a big shift. You know, I'm just eating like whole sweet potatoes as is. I don't put anything on them. I'm like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And just retraining my
Not
taste buds a
doctoring
little
everything
bit.
with
Yeah.
sugar and fats and
Right.
you know, butters and all that.
Cutting all that out. Even you can be vegan and be eating vegan junk food and still be very unhealthy.
Sure.
So vegan isn't healthy in
Eat
that
potato
sense.
chips all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Vegan.
Vegan or plant-based is healthy when one begins to eat like, you know, whole foods, and then you're
whole
getting
food,
this-
plant-based. Yeah.
exactly. I think that's where I find the most benefit.
I've been tinkering around with that. I talked last podcast too about tinkering with like paleo and stuff like that, and I do really feel like it's down the middle for me. Like I feel like I do need meat in my diet, but I need ethically produced meats. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to come to terms with like ethical slaughter, but it's like an oxymoron. You know what I mean? So the end of the life, like what is that like? What are the last moments for this animal, right? Is it going down the stockade, watching everything happen before it happens to you? That is not good mojo, man.
No,
That's
it's
not
terrible,
good
right?
mojo rolling through the blood source, even, you know, physically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
the fear hormones pumping through it. I really don't want any part of that. I want, ideally, an animal that doesn't know it's coming, that's lived a great life, that's lived a pastured life instead of something in a cage, something that's not cramped. But
yeah,
then there are outlets to do that, and I'm moving towards that. But man, our culture, right, doesn't make it easy.
Yeah, exactly. I think when
Anywhere
you
you
look
go
at
to eat, it's like
spiritual modalities, not all of them believe in the ahimsa, non-harming, in terms
Mhm.
of they consume meat, and like Patrick says, and I've heard before too. It's like you can't convince an Inuit in Alaska to be a vegan because
Right.
they really don't have that option.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to grow gardens all year round, and so
We have the option though. That's our big conundrum.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
too many options almost,
So I feel privileged in that I actually feel drawn to be vegan because I want to, and I get to because I have the availability to Whole Foods and around me, and I can get everything I need. The people always freak out about the protein question, like how do you get your protein? It's so
There's a lot of
easy.
protein.
I get like
with
150
plants.
grams a day from plants. And also in the documentary they talk about like the over hype about how much you're getting as a bodybuilder. Like a lot of it is just going right out through your urine.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna grow 100 or 320 grams every day.
No.
So just and I used to eat like that
Yeah.
in my 20s. Like I was lifting weights and I'm gonna get huge, man. That was my goal. And now I realize I'm getting just the same gains and stuff at 150 grams, and I could even get more if I want. And it's all plant based and whatever. It feels
Do you
good.
feel like you lack anything from your diet?
When
You feel like
do,
vitamin
like,
D, B12, any of that, like the B
Okay,
vitamins?
that's interesting. Yeah, B12 I've learned is not a vegan problem. It's actually
It's a dirt problem.
it's because B12 comes from dirt.
Microbes, right?
And also in like water, pure water from rivers and stuff like that. It was how we used to get
Well, we got the purest water. We
it's
got
nice.
sterile water, baby.
Zero. And then the pesticides are killing the dirt, and so now no one's getting the B12 that they should be getting. So really, whether
Everybody
you're
should
eating
be
or not,
popping, yeah.
you gotta really get a supplement. So,
Yeah, I did hear that.
yeah. But I feel like everything else I get, I don't feel, and I'm doing calorie deficit because I'm
Okay.
just trying to lean out and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, if I was in a surplus, if I was doing the bulking program, God, I'm sure I would be like not at all
Probably
feeling bad,
probably too much to eat. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not really interested in that right now. Just load up my belly and sit on the couch, go to sleep. But yeah, I think everything you need is in whole plants.
Cool.
That's just my thing.
How about exercise? Like, how much do you practice yoga? How much do you hit the gym?
So when I was doing yoga teacher training, and I
It's
was
a little bit more intense right now.
super,
I
you go
remember.
like every day pretty much, and you just
Yeah.
can't get enough. And then just dropping into, so here's my thing, like I didn't actually do yoga teacher training for like the asana so much, and for the longest time I didn't even do any asana. I just listened to videos, and I really like listening to Ram Dass and Alan Watts and all
Mhm.
that stuff.
There's a lot of different.
So it wasn't like
yoga.
my main gig, it wasn't like my main way in, but so in the once I started finding these other modalities and getting into other things, and the stuff with Melodoma and the stuff with my other shamanic teacher and the Peruvian stuff, like I don't go more than maybe twice a week now, I would say. And I always have this little feeling like I actually do want to go more. I just don't find the time. I'm working on music, I'm working on other things, but I find ways to ground in. I'll sit in front of the altar and do breath work. I'll meditate. I'll try to talk to the spirits and just tune in. And it's funny because there's this one, I can't remember the two words, the Sanskrit words. They both start with a B, But there's this one sect of yogis that they do only this. They eat and they sing. That's their yoga.
Okay.
You know, it's like bhakti yoga, you know.
Anything done with purpose, right?
Singing, man, singing from your heart and just letting everything out. I mean, that's yoga. Yoga can be in
It's union, right?
it's
Yoga.
union with something,
Yeah.
connection to the divine. And I think that shows up in a lot of different ways. And you can get there. Right now I'm thinking of this when Ram Dass talked about when he was giving a speech, and this woman's sitting there, I think she's crocheting like in the place, and she's just like nodding to everything, like she understands everything he's saying, and he was kind of like weirded out by that. So he went up to her afterwards and was like, I noticed you just sort of like nodded to everything I said, and you know, and she's like, yeah, I know, I knit. So he's like explaining like all these yogic concepts and all this stuff, and she's like, yeah, I get all that when I knit, you know. So it's the same idea, like it doesn't have to be yoga that gets you there.
Yeah.
It's helpful if you're looking for something.
Well, when we talk about yoga too, most people will just think asana, right? But there's so much more to it, and
Yeah.
the more to it is, that's what you're leading towards.
Exactly. You've got an entire, like we said earlier, the portal.
Mhm.
The portal goes deep, very wide. You go into Vedic knowledge and these ancient cultures. I mean,
Sky's the limit, really.
yeah. Where do you want to go with it? And then my thing is like, how do I now take that and now apply it to something and make something?
Mhm.
So that's just the stage that I'm at, the stages of life.
There's Musashi, I think, said, know the way broadly and you will see it in all things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
once you have like a roadmap, or like the 10,000 hours, right? Like once you reach a level of mastery of like doing 10,000 hours of whatever, X, Y, or Z, once you have that blueprint, then you can master other things. Just because you know
Yeah.
the roadmap.
You've learned how to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's more powerful than learning a thing. Like,
Teach a man to fish. Kind
yeah,
of thing,
right? We can apply the like concepts and principles to other things, and I think that's been a powerful one for me too. Is learning how to see things from a different perspective, and then how that applies to everything else that I've been confused about in life. And like, so many things have fallen away that I didn't even realize were like underlying inherent sort of issues. And after a while, you just feel lighter. And I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't felt like, anxiety about anything in quite a long time. What's that about, And it's just something falls away, and you don't miss it when it falls away like that. It's different than like gaining a problem. Like you're confronted with a thing, you're like, oh shit, like this is very obvious, I gotta deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
But when it falls away, we gotta remember to be grateful
Yeah.
that something happened, some kind of
sure.
frequential shift happened there. Like,
I remember, yeah, going through like a struggle, you start to realize like, wait, I don't feel like shit anymore. I don't feel great, but it feels good to not feel like shit.
Like I can
and
get
then you
through
go
this
through,
day.
yeah. And then you go through and you're like, it really feels good to feel good.
Mhm.
That's where I like to stay.
Yeah, right?
And we had these roller coaster, emotions throughout our life, but as long as I can keep my base level up, I was talking to Nikhil about that. It's like, keeping my base level up instead of being so topsy turvy, staying balanced, and
Adjusting the frequency
yeah.
constantly.
And really, the only way to get to that balance is by engaging the darkness to some degree. I see a lot of people on Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's chasing the light and screaming about the light, but nobody really wants to talk about the darkness. And that's a lot is there. If you do not approach that, your shadow is going to reach up and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, that was like our second or third meeting.
Shadow,
We
yeah,
did the Carl Jung stuff, man.
I've been reading some Jung stuff after that, and it's really been hitting home. He did a whole book on the chakras, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually been a huge one, is the idea of just acknowledging the shadow and just seeing what's there. Yeah, I think that's like the shamanic sort of twist, so to speak, and I think shamanism really has the tendency to look at it that way, to look at the dark and just be with what is.
I think that's why why it might have a bad rap at the same time.
Probably,
like a lot of people think of shamanism as like, well, you're treading in dangerous waters, or whatever the opinion might be, but
well, aversion doesn't help anything. To keep aversion, keep
right.
averting from underlying,
it's just gonna keep creeping back up.
Yeah.
It's,
like, do you want to know that you've got a wound in your leg and it's about to fall off, or it's metaphorically speaking, of course, but like, just to know what is bubbling up in me that wants to be seen, that wants to be heard, and then to speak it, open the throat chakra and come from authenticity, and to say what needs to be said, and breathe into my body and really just be in my body and see what wants to come out. And it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is look down a busy street, and there's a ton of people that are repressing. There's a ton of people that are averting. Not only that they don't want to look, but they're being conditioned to not look. That's not good for business. It's really not. That's why they keep us in this paradigm. I keep mentioning they, right? Like the powers that be, but it's like this natural I don't want to say progression. What's the word I'm looking for? The natural
regression.
Yeah.
Some say that we're devolving.
Well, it certainly
evolving.
Seems to be. I mean, look at the state of affairs of people's health. Like, we should be living longer than ever, and now that gap is starting to shrink again.
Yeah, I mean, cancer is a business.
Yeah.
So when cancer is a
cardiovascular, all that as well.
That's bad.
The medical industrial complex, right? Now you're on conspiracies again, Justin.
There we go.
Gosh.
Got another hour.
Wow, man. Well, it's been a good run. Let me ask you a couple questions before I let you go. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. One is, it's kind of like a cliche one, but what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, man.
You pick the time, the age. Whatever.
Yeah, which younger self?
Yeah. Which Justin True?
What's coming to mind right now is the sort of like middle school version, like middle school, high school range. I think that's where like free flowing innocence was lost, or forgotten, I should say. Because I remember prior to that, being in the mode where it's like not thinking about what other people think about you, thinking about what do they think about me, or building that self-conscious self.
Mm-hmm. Self-conscious self.
The self-conscious self.
Wow. Yeah.
What is that? I think that's.
We all struggle with it.
It doesn't help anything. It doesn't help.
It's a rare bird to escape that.
Yeah, and I've noticed huge strides in myself too. Just from where I was, I remember being told that I was extremely shy and all of these things, and now I've really the practice has helped in the last 5 or 6 years. And so what would I tell that self? I don't know. I think that the interesting thing is that fate might have had its run no matter which direction.
Yeah.
Like I would say, oh, don't worry about
everything's perfect, so you want to upset the balance of what's already happening.
What are you worried about?
There's no time machine though, we're just speculating.
Yeah, totally. I think that I would just say be more confident and trust your intuition, and don't get bogged down by the opinions of others.
It's pretty solid
I think
advice.
That's like the most solid advice I could imagine, because that was one of those things where it's like a mask of like all these other things came out of it. So if that chunk could fall off, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Right on. Another question I have is yoga teachers and people that are trying to provide space for others, I feel like it's important for us to fill up our own cups so we don't kind of go spiritually bankrupt or burn out. How do you fill your cup on a daily or a weekly basis? What fills you? What gives you purpose?
showing up to my classes, teaching my classes, I feel like that is very empowering. Like to be able to share. A lot of times they're vulnerable messages. Like if you're sharing a yoga theme with a class, not everyone is gonna jive with it. The other day, some guy got up and left in my class. It's kind of like, that was actually the first time I've experienced that.
Wow.
Just like, all right, see you, buddy. And anyway, yeah. So I think that showing up and for me right now to do the teaching and listening to the gurus, hearing the wisdom, and knowing that that is intrinsically also me, and really starting to grok with that. Like, I'm gonna digest that fact as fact.
Like feel through it,
The
instead
guru
of
is
think
in
through
me.
it.
Yeah, well, intuit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems probably both.
Yeah, right.
It's
So,
good balance.
It's great balance to be able to trust yourself and to see the wisdom in another, and then know that they're connected, and that really fills up my cup. And the music is like, just tune in, man. Just tune in.
Good deal, man. Well, why don't you let everybody know in the internet worlds where they can find J True, where they might be able to find your music if you're posting that. Alchemy Home.
Yeah, so the alchemyhome.com, ALCHEMY home.com. So that's my wife and I's business, where we have the yoga retreats, the shamanic one-on-one sessions. All the information is there if you're interested in a session or a retreat or workshop. Facebook, Justin True. I share all of my events on there. If I'm doing a yin yoga gong bath or any other kind of workshops, they're all there. Instagram, jtrue1, O-N-E. And that's where I'll eventually be putting more of my music once it's ready. And I think that's enough.
Cool.
It's 3 spots.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here, man. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
So I always love to sit down and have a candid conversation. So thanks for being around.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for everybody listening. Whether you hear us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever else on the interwebs, thanks for joining us. And hang loose out there, everyone. And that's cut.